Ask any reporter, writer, or detective. Every great story is usually made up of just a few key questions. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. And sometimes, the art of telling a good story is all about answering those questions just right. Disney's Ducktales has been teasing its audience with unrevealed answers to questions like that since the very first episode, making fans beg to hear the who, what, where, why, and how of Della Duck, Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mother. And this episode is called Whatever Happened to Della Duck? But that's not exactly the question it answers. Remember how I theorized that the cosmic storm Della got lost in was probably some kind of time vortex, and she hadn't really been on the moon for that many years? And that I backed this argument up by saying that if Uncle Scrooge spent untold billions trying to find her, surely he would have searched the moon and found her, right? Yeah, so I was wrong. Really, really wrong. The DuckTales episode, Whatever Happened to Della Duck, tells the story of Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mother as she becomes stranded on the moon. It's the mystery that's been at the heart of the show ever since the first episode. But despite the name of this story, the what of Della Duck isn't really what this adventure is about. This story is actually about the who of Della Duck. Yes, this episode does tell us what the missing mother has been up to for all these years, but that's just the setting of the story, not the point of it. After all, we already knew what happened to Della Duck and when. Uncle Scrooge told us that she got lost in a cosmic storm, and Della's own scene at the end of the Shadow War told us where she was, alive and well somehow, surviving on the moon. If we're sticking to that who, what, where, why, when, and how formula, that leaves us with just two questions left. And this episode gets the question of how Della survived on the moon out of the way as soon as possible.
Gyro's Oxy Chew. It provides oxygen, water, and nutrition, and tastes terrible.
Leave it to Gyro to create a gum that feeds you, keeps you hydrated, provides you with oxygen in an airless environment, and lasts for years without needing a new stick. Too bad about the flavor, though.
Ugh, black licorice!
With all those core answers about survival and how she got to the moon and where she is laid out in front of us, this gives the episode room to breathe and explore what's really important. Della herself. We've been studying what happened to her and why throughout the background of this entire series, but we've barely been given a window into who Della Duck is. Now, we're getting a story specifically designed to showcase Della as a character. And it does this by isolating her completely. Alone on the moon, we see Della Duck as an optimistic, determined person who never gives up hope. Someone who, despite being in the most dire of circumstances, holds on to the slimmest possibilities and dedicates herself to a single goal: getting home to see her family. And that goal is garnished with charm. In video logs reminiscent of the 2015 film The Martian, we see her make jokes, brim with confidence, and express sorrow, showing her missing her family and coming to the heartbreaking realization that she doesn't even know what her own children look like. And that's a really important part of the story, because while we see an adventurous, motivated mother in Della Duck, the episode doesn't shy away from showing her flaws either. It's her own fault she wound up stranded on the moon, and that same blind willingness to leap into action without thinking ahead is maybe also the reason she's still there. Throughout her time on the moon, Della is plagued by a metal-eating moonmite. It eats her ships, destroys her SOS signals, and generally causes trouble. But when Della spots a rescue ship flying over the moon, she's the one who starts a fight with the creature, kicking up dust and obscuring her crash site from the rescue rocket's view. Had she done nothing, she probably would have been spotted and rescued. In fact, her character flaws sabotage her at every step of this journey. We see her impatience take her down paths that waste time, or her pride ignite an explosive anger within her that derails her progress. And at the same time, this anger serves a positive purpose sometimes, like it does in Donald, reaching a boiling point and eventually being unleashed in a fury of attacks against an enemy at a crucial moment. And although I would never call explosive anger a good character trait, I have to admit I kind of loved seeing it in Della. It gives her this real, likable, relatable connection to her own brother, Donald Duck, who also has this boiling point of anger where he explodes. And I also really like them both sharing those sibling character flaws of being angry, impatient, explosive, and of kind of having bad luck, even if that bad luck is usually caused by their own anger and impatience. Of course, showing who Della is through her words and actions is only the surface of this episode. One of my favorite things about the new Ducktales series is how it pulls influences from every piece of Disney Duck media it can. And the show has made a point of linking Della herself with one of the most iconic pieces of DuckTales music ever composed, the Moon theme from the DuckTales Nintendo game. That sounds almost silly, but it's a song that far surpassed the video game level it was written for, and the catchy tune can often be heard under any scene with Della. In this episode, it almost takes center stage, sneaking its melody into the background of action scenes, shining in montages, and even being belted out enthusiastically by Della herself. And it would be kind of weird if a character knew the background music for the show they lived in, so DuckTales gives Della a reason to know the song. The Moon theme isn't just some song that plays on the surface of Earth's nearest heavenly body, but one of Della's favorite songs, a lullaby about adventure.
Face each new sun with eyes clear and true, unafraid of the unknown, because I'll face it all with you.
It's a great way to endear Della to longtime DuckTales fans, tying an already loved piece of DuckTales music to the character and infusing it with lyrics that drive home the core of who she is. In fact, showrunner Frank Agone says that the lyrics are more than just Della's mantra. They're sort of a mission statement for this version of DuckTales as a whole, and that's sort of perfect. In addition to the lyrics being a great character turning point, the words infused in Della's lullaby are also a gift to those of us who've had the lyrics to another version of that song stuck in our head for maybe a decade.
Oh, crazy duck in space, yeah, you're really greedy and you're old.
It's kind of a relief. Now whenever we play the DuckTales video game, we'll be hearing the voice of Della instead. And I kind of love that. Naturally, there's a lot more going on in this episode, more than I have time to mention. I love how Gyro Gearloose's personality bursts out of the Oxychew gum and the ship's manual, both showing off his incredible genius as well as his overbearing and unsympathetic ego. The background of the interior of the Spear of Selene itself is littered with little jokes and references, and the second half of the episode is packed with adventure and introduces two new characters from the planet Moon.
What? The moon's not a planet.
We even get to see how Della might finally escape the moon of the future, and that's all awesome, but it'll have to wait for another time. For now, I just loved having an episode that really let us spend some time with Della, because this is a character we've barely seen in any version of the Duck family, and I'm happy to finally meet her. I just can't wait until her family can too. That's it for this quick review. As usual, thanks for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe if you can. It's a bit weird and awkward to ask, but all that stuff really helps the channel out. Either way, I'm glad you've all stuck with me for so long with these silly reviews. I'll catch you next time, and as always, take it easy, Internet.